there's been a lot of like hashing on of new content from Wizards of the Coast. So here's a couple things about that. A lot of people look at these things and kind of tear it to pieces and say like, this, what is WOTC doing, or Wizards of the Coast, the owners of D&D? What are they doing? What's going on? You know, these things are broken. It's not as, you know, they're breaking the game. I don't care. Is that bad? Not that I don't care about them breaking the game, but to me, I'd rather just enjoy things, right? And that's one thing. But two, I honestly think that these Unearthed Arcanas is less about getting community feedback and more about marketing, stirring up hype, because hey, even though it doesn't say Planescape, it's Planescape, and people are going to talk about that. People are going to generate hype about Planescape just because this thing came out, and it's a huge marketing thing. So even if they aren't looking for specific feedback, this is giving them a lot of hype for future content, which is a great business move anyways, right? So I don't take this stuff super seriously, but it's fun to see what's coming up. It's fun to flavor, because we will see this in some form in the future, which is pretty great. Nikolay says, it's funny how the actual giants don't get these abilities. Somebody said it. It's the weird dichotomy between like what the players get and what the giants get. Here's the thing, is like 5th edition has to be simple, though. It has to be simple. And so when they do the giant stat blocks, they only do so much, because you don't want a 3-page stat block for a giant. It's too complicated, scare away new DMs. People get in their mind, and it's a big reason of why I've made this channel, is a lot of people get in their mind that Wizards of the Coast made Dungeons and Dragons as is, and it's supposed to be as is. I don't think that's true. I think Wizards of the Coast made D&D for us to change, to add, and to complicate ourselves. They laid the base foundation that makes it easy to access, and for new DMs to feel comfortable starting a game. But for DMs, for us, who want to make it more complicated, who are comfortable with the game, and wish to add the things that we know and love and attribute to these characters, we can do that. And so when we see things like the Vigor of the Hill Giant, this feat, and think, oh, regular giants don't have this, well, they do if you give it to them. And you can, right? And there's always a question of like, oh, can you do it easily? And, you know, no, but you're asking for complication here. But you can do that, and you can give them those things. And there are so many times where I've taken monsters and given them a lot of things. That would just make sense, right? Even in battle, and I hope you as DMs are given permission to do this. In battle, in a fight where the characters are fighting this thing, homebrew is homebrew. If you're changing something, it doesn't matter if you do it before the battle, before the game, or during the game. You're still changing something about the outcome, depending on information that you receive or know about balance. So if I'm playing the game and I'm thinking like they're fighting this creature in this way, it would make sense that this creature would be able to do this thing, right? Like, it makes sense that a hill giant, being giant, if somebody tries to move them, right? Or even tries to keep them from moving, like a polearm master, right? Polearm master? The feat that allows them to stop creatures in their tracks no matter what their size, right? I would say the Vigor of the Hill Giant gets a saving throw for that. Or it doesn't affect them at all, press past a certain size. Because especially the Hill Giant that gets something like this, it would make sense. So even in the fight, if somebody tries to use Polearm Master, or whatever the feat is, and tries to stop my Hill Giant, I'd be like, roll a strength check. Roll a strength check. And it'll be kind of like athletics versus athletics, and maybe if they lose, they'll get knocked prone. But some things like this, it's you can add these things to your game because they make sense. And if you have that conversation with your player, that you're like, a lot of these monsters are not going to be rules as written. They're going to be homebrew. They're going to make sense though. And to me, as a player for that kind of DM, I would expect something like that. I would expect that if I try to block a freaking giant that's 3 times my size with my polearm, that I might have a hard time doing so. It makes sense, right? And so, anyways, that is a freaking rant. But I hope that again, your DMs and players feel inspired and allowed to make the game more than it is, because it's simple on purpose, and we are meant to complicate it as we see fit. Make sense? And if you don't agree with that and you have your own way of thinking about it, please share it. I'm more than happy to hear it and change my mind in the future if, new knowledge comes to mind. But that's how I currently see it, and that's how I currently play.